What's up everyone, Adam here from Cape Crawlers, and today we've got our hands on the brand new TRX4M from Traxxas. The TRX4M is finally here, and we got our hands on a blacked out Bronco and a green Defender. Been waiting for these for a long time since the announcement came out. Finally got our hands on them. Really excited to share some content and our thoughts with you on these things. We've been playing with them all day. We've been having a blast, tinkering with them, running them outdoors, indoors, just been having a great time. Already recognize there's great capabilities out of the box, and there's lots of potential in this platform. Traxxas has done a great job with this, and it's really exciting to have them enter the mini crawler market. I've said it before, competition is great for the consumer, and it's a great time to be a consumer and a hobbyist in the RC market right now. We've got a ton of great offerings, Axial, FMS, and now Traxxas. Man, the crawler space is heating up, and I'm pumped to be a part of it. So let's dive into these things. We're going to approach this in a few different ways. First, we're going to talk about the key features. I'm not familiar enough with the rigs yet to really get into the technicalities of them, so we're just going to hit the highlights. Next, I'm going to give you my first impressions. When I opened the box, when I first got my hands on it, what were my first impressions when I first opened this thing up and took a look at it? Next, we're going to do some size comparisons. I want to spend some significant time here showing you some size comparisons. We're going to do a Bronco to Bronco with the SCX24. We're going to look at some other 18th scales. I want to give you guys some real perspective on the size of this thing and how it compares to other crawlers that are out on the market. Next, we're going to talk about driving impressions. We've spent some significant time, not a whole lot, but we've been outdoors, we've been indoors, we've been running them around the house at speed. It's been a fun afternoon, I'll say that. So I'll give you my thoughts on the initial driving time that we've had with these things thus far. And then we'll show you some run footage. We'll get into the outdoor crawler course, the indoor crawler course. I'll show you these things in action. And then we'll come back together, we'll wrap it all up. I'll give you my final thoughts and conclusion. So with that, why don't we dive into the key features? Some key features of the TRX4M. It's got these really nice hard bodies, these plastic hard bodies that are lightweight, look really nice in scale. They've got mirrors, cargo racks, spare tires on the back. No interiors in these though. We have steel frame rails that are nice and rigid, oil-filled GTM shocks at all four corners. We have a 4-link suspension setup front and rear. Straight axles front and back with CV-style shafts in the front and a very impressive 45-degree steering angle on this. We have a heavy-duty waterproof micro servo here. The motor is an 87-turn 180-sized brushed motor. The transmitter is a TQ 2-channel 2.4 gigahertz system. It comes with the LiPo battery with the new style plug on it. There's an ECM 2.5 ESC. It comes with your basic toolkit and some spacers for the shocks and a quick start guide. I want to show you guys some additional features of the ESC before we move on too far. So this is a 3-mode ESC, which means you've got 3 driving modes that you can cycle through. You've got sport mode, trail mode, and crawl mode. To do that, you're going to press and hold this blue button here. It'll flash once for sport mode, 2 for trail mode, 3 for crawl mode. And when you let off the button after the flashes, that's the mode that you're in. Each mode has slightly different settings. Sport mode is going to give you full forward, reverse, and braking power. Trail mode, which is the default mode from the factory, applies a little bit of drag brake, and crawl mode adds full drag brake for maximum hold. Now the ESC also controls the Pro Scale light kit. So you can see we've got that installed on this one here. So if you want to change the light settings, you're going to press that button once and it should start cycling through your light settings. You see that? So you aren't able to control the lights on the transmitter, but you just pop the body off and you can get in and go through various modes using the ESC here. All right, let's talk first impressions. So when I opened up the box and got these things out of here, I was really impressed with the scale, the appearance, and the fit and finish. Traxxas has done a really great job giving us a nice, clean, sharp-looking product. The hard bodies are great. They've got awesome detail on them. It's really cool to see on the Bronco, especially. You've got the mirrors, the door handles, the clear tail lights. It's even got the hooks on the hood for your limb risers, just like the real Bronco does. Very cool. From a size perspective, I felt like the scale is really good. I was really concerned after getting the Capra, the UTB 18 from Axial, that these were going to be big, but they're not. I think the size is excellent. It's really comparable to an SCX24. If you've got a bunch of SCX24s running around, you'll be able to run the Bronco or the Land Rover right alongside with them. It's bigger, it's a little more planted, but it's still small enough and capable enough it can go anywhere that an SCX24 does, I think. Right off the bat, one of the things that I love what Traxxas did is the 2-clip body function. Being able to just pop this hard body off so easily with these 2 clips, one in the front and one in the back. Thank you, Traxxas. This is like the greatest feature. So just the ease of removal for myself and my son, it's just so nice to have that 2-clip body function. That's awesome. And also when you take the body off, the electronics and the layout is so clean and well put together. The battery strap design, again, you know, these are small things like the body clips and the battery tray with the rubber strap and the clean wiring that runs along kind of the backbone of this thing. They're small details, but they make a big difference because it just adds to a really nice, clean, functional, and easy to operate package here. I really like it. I really like what they've done with the battery tray and the strap and the body. I mean, those were things that stood out to me right away as far as ease of use and kind of quality features. Turning it off and on was a little quirky. You know, you have to always turn your transmitter on first, and then you plug the battery in, and that is your on and off switch. There's no button or anything to turn it off and on. It's just unplugging the battery and plugging it in. And you've got to have your transmitter on first, otherwise it won't sync up properly. The oil-filled shocks, you know, I could tell right away that this is nice and firm. They are a little bouncy, but nowhere near like the SCX24s or the FCX24s. They've got a nice squish to them. It sits pretty well. It's got plenty of room to articulate, and these shocks feel really good. So that was another thing they noticed right off the bat, as well as the steering. So the 45-degree steering, and these things, the wheels can turn so far from center. It's wild, and the turning radius on this thing is so tight, and that really adds to the capabilities of it. Even though it's bigger, it's definitely able to maneuver really well because of that really agile steering setup. From an appearance standpoint, this isn't as aggressive as the SCX24 Bronco. This kind of looks like a Bronco that somebody bought and just threw some slightly bigger wheels and tires on it, whereas the Axial SCX24 Bronco looks like a pretty well-built rig right out of the box. So it has more of like a tame appearance, if you will. I kind of wish it had an interior. You know, that's one of the things I like about the SCX24 Bronco is you get the hard body, but then you also get the realistic looking interior. This has no interior, so when you look inside there, it's just a straight view of all the electronics and everything, which it's not bad, but I kind of like, from a scale rig, I like having that realistic interior. It just makes it a little cooler to watch as it's moving around, but that's just personal preference. But overall, I like it. You know, initial impressions were really good. It definitely lived up to my expectations, probably exceeded them in a lot of ways, particularly with the electronics and the chassis layout. Very impressed with it right out of the box. So now why don't we take a look at some comparisons. We'll compare it against an SCX24, and we'll look at it against some other 18 scale rigs. Now let's do some comparisons. So here's our TRX4. Let's look at it against the Axial SCX24 Bronco. Now both of these are very similar. They've got the very scaled hard bodies on here, and they look very similar, right? I mean, Axial has done a great job with their hard body, as has Traxxas. So the Traxxas just looks like a scaled up version of the SCX24, and not by a huge amount. You know, I think they did a really good job with the size on the TRX4M. It's bigger than the Axial, obviously, but it's still comparable in size, and I think you could really enjoy both of these on the same course, same trail. You know, they are comparable enough to where you could enjoy both of them at the same time. Now our Bronco, the red Bronco, is pretty built, so it's going to sit a little lower. It's going to be a lot wider than stock, but this at least gives you some perspective as to how it looks against the TRX4M. If we look at the TRX4M against another 18th scale, this is a Firehorse Jeep Wrangler. Now you can see that, again, that this is made by FMS, and I've said it in other videos that FMS makes really great scale products. So I think this is very true to size. And if you look at these two together, I think they match up really well. So the Bronco is a little bit shorter from a wheelbase perspective, but as far as scale goes, they're very even here. So definitely a true to size 18 scale, I would say. And this just gives you, here's a good perspective on the shocks from the TRX4M. So you can see, push it down. That's the difference in the oil-filled shocks. Obvious right away. Those GTM shocks are good. Okay, let's talk driving impressions. Before I get into the raw crawling footage, let's just talk about my initial thoughts after running this thing. We've had it out on the rocks, on the outdoor course. We've had it on the indoor course here. We spent some significant time on it. So I'm going to give you my thoughts here. I'll also be popping up run footage and clips as I go on. The first impressions of this thing from a driving, it's civilized is the word that comes to mind when I think about this. It's very quiet. It's very composed. You know, the oil-filled shocks, it doesn't bounce and rattle around like the SCX24s can kind of hop and bounce up over obstacles. With the oil-filled shocks and kind of the longer wheelbase with this thing, it's just more planted, and it's smoother to articulate and navigate obstacles. It's just very civilized. That's the word that comes to mind. You know, and that translates from how it drives and also from how it's put together. You know, the clean electronics, the battery strap, the clips, everything. It's just a very civilized crawler. You know, if this was going to show up at a family barbecue, it would show up in business casual, like with like a sport coat on, whereas the Axial SCX24 would be in jeans and a t-shirt. You know, it's just kind of this suave, well put together, well composed vehicle. Now, I also felt like as I was driving it, I felt like I wanted more power off the bottom end. I feel like it could use just a little more punch, a little more juice to get up out of some tight technical spots. I found that I would get up against an obstacle and I just didn't have the power that I expected to kind of bump up out of there. So I wish it had a little more power. And I've got the crawler gears ready to put in this thing. So maybe if we lower the gear ratio, that'll help. We'll see. But I felt like I wanted a little more juice off the bottom. The approach angle, one of the things I noticed off the bat too was the approach angle. It's got kind of the bumper in the front end sticks out pretty far. And you've got relatively small tires for an aggressive crawler. You know, I think the SCX24 had a little bigger tires as far as scale goes out of the box, which allowed it to have a better approach angle. This, I just felt like I was hitting rocks and I was having a hard time with my approach. So I wish I had a little more aggressive approach angle, which we'll probably solve with some bigger tires in the near future here. The steering did not disappoint, so it has super tight, precise steering. You know, the turning radius and the way this thing is able to maneuver in and out of tight technical situations and courses and lines is really impressive. You know, I said earlier that this is able to run with the SCX24s and the smaller scales, even though it's bigger, because that tight turning and that tight steering really allows it to get through technical spots pretty easily. The servo feels strong. I didn't feel like it was fading or didn't come into a lot of situations where it didn't handle what I was throwing at it. So I was really impressed with the steering. It definitely lived up to my expectations there. From a capability standpoint, I was impressed with how capable it was. It doesn't seem to be nearly as top heavy or as prone to flipping over or rolling over as the SCX24 Bronco was. It was able to do all the obstacles on our indoor course right out of the box, which is something that I don't believe any SCX24 has been able to do. So out of the box functionality, I gotta say that it's more capable than SCX24. It does really well right out of the box. The transmitter is big. That's one of the first things I noticed, that the transmitter is really big. It's kind of lacking functionality. You've just got your basic trim on here. There's really nothing else that you can do with the transmitter. It's also really difficult to do one-handed operation, which is tricky because I typically film with my right hand with my phone and drive with my left hand, and it's a real stretch to get to that wheel with one-handed operation. And I have pretty big hands. If I had smaller hands, I'd be in trouble. I wouldn't be able to do it. So just something to consider there. The tires and wheels on both the Defender and the Bronco are nice and soft. They're very soft and squishy. They're vented with no foams in them. We did experience with my son on the Defender that the rims and tires would separate. Like he was driving along and he would rip a tire off the wheel because they're not glued on. So it's something to think about there. The Bronco seemed to stay together pretty well, but Axel was able to dislodge his tires pretty easily on his. Thankfully, they go on really easy too. But overall, very impressed. It drove really good. I think it exceeded my expectations as far as performance out of the box. So I'm going to stop talking. Why don't we take a look at some run footage, and then we'll put it together and then wrap it all up, and I'll give you my final thoughts and conclusion when this is all said and done. So let's check out the run footage. Okay, let's take a look at some lines on the course here. So this is the Bronco, and it's in crawl mode. Let's see how this does. See, there's that approach angle right there. I just wish I had a little more room to get the bumper over that stuff. But see that tight turning radius, I'm able to just kind of weave in and out of there. Yeah, see, again right there. Yeah. Even though it's a bigger scale, I'm still able to do all the obstacles. It didn't get hung up there. You know, I designed this for a 124. Oh, look at that turning on that. To get up over that obstacle and around that tight corner. It's just a little jumpy. You know, I just wish it was smoother off the bottom. Even in crawl mode, you know, I just wish it had a little more control on the low end. Find some traction here. There we go. You can see the shock action there, just nice and smooth. So look at it, weave in and out of there. Isn't that nuts? Turning is crazy. Nice, that was a good crawl right there. Now watch the turning radius up here. See if I can demonstrate just how tight this thing turns on this section. This is a tight turn, off camber. Look at that thing. Look at it. Crazy how tight it turns up there. Try some mini Moab lines here. I'm going to get stuck in here because that bumper is too long. Yeah. Very composed going up the chute. Escalator, let's give it a shot. Good bump there. Nice. All right, let's try Hell's Gate. Oh, got it. Nice.
Go. No walk to enter it. No walk to climb. Here we go. Bye-bye. I have to good. I'm tired to get them to whip. I got gut. I bury myself. I can't make it. I have to. What in the world? I don't. Where do you put my quail? Can you come into the mountain to boost me out? There. Come back. Ooh.
Final thoughts on the TRX4M. I think Traxxas knocked it out of the park with this thing. They did an amazing job with this. For $150, competitively priced, but you get features and benefits on this thing that no other competitor can match in this scale and in this price point. The hard body design with the clips on it to take it on and off is fantastic. The battery tray and strap, the way the electronics and everything is laid out so nice and clean, the oil-filled shocks, the waterproof electronics. You know, it's just a really well refined rig. I feel like Traxxas really took their time in developing this and has given us a ready to run crawler that is easy to use, easy to set up, easy to work on, and is just consumer focused is how I feel. And I think they did a really good job with the features and benefits of this thing. Some of my minor gripes, you know, are the approach angle. I wish that the bumper didn't hang out as much as it did. And maybe we could solve that with some bigger tires to get a better approach angle. I wish it had a little more juice off the bottom just to get in and out of those tight spots when you do get a little hung up. I just wish it had some more punch to get up in and out of those technical spots. But they do offer the crawler gear set as well as a speed gear set. So they have addressed that already. And I think this thing will really benefit from the lower gearing with the crawler set, which we have, by the way, and we're going to put in. Power in the mid and top range are excellent. It is pretty quick for what it is. The mid range and the top end has great power. super fun to zip around with in the living room or in the dining room. You know, my son is having a blast with his. Highly recommend the Pro Scale Light Kit. You know, it's just a plug and play, 25 bucks, and it really is cool. You put these realistic tail lights on here and headlights, especially on the Bronco, looks awesome. So I love what they're doing with the accessory line already. The utility trailer is super fun. My son is also digging that as well. So I love that Traxxas has already kind of, you know, front loaded the market with some really good accessories for this thing as well. I wish the transmitter was a little smaller and had a little more functionality on it. You just have your steering trim on it and that's it. I wish you could control the lighting on it and had a little more of adjustment, and I wish it was smaller so that I could do a little easier one-handed operation. I'm not a fan of the battery. You know, it doesn't have a balance lead, and it's got this new plug on it that I can't use any other batteries for this thing, so I'm not a big fan of that. Tires and wheels are good. I wish they'd glued them from the factory. Like I said, we've already experienced the tires coming off the wheels, but you know, we're going to solve that with some aftermarket upgrades. The tires are soft and grippy as it is, but I just wish they were glued. But overall, very impressed with it. It was worth the wait. It was worth the hype, I feel. This is very cool. Ton of potential in this platform. I do believe that this is the best performing microcrawler out of the box between the SCX24 and the Axial SCX24 and any of the other small scale crawlers. I think out of the box, this thing is a great performer. It does really good. I was really impressed with what it was able to do on our indoor and outdoor course right out of the gate. Very impressive. So well done, Traxxas. This is great. Competition is great for the consumer, like I said earlier, and this is a wonderful addition to the mini crawler market, and this is only going to spur action from the other manufacturers, I hope. I hope Traxxas sells 10 million of these things to really bring attention to the market and heat everything up. I think we're going to see an explosion of awesome vehicles and parts in the crawler space here, the mini crawler space, which is awesome and fantastic for us as the consumer. So this is a win all around, I think. Traxxas has done a really great job with the rig itself, but I'm really hoping that they light a fire under the other manufacturers because we're all going to benefit from it. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm really anxious to get more time on this thing. We're going to spend a bunch of time on it this weekend. I've got a bunch of upgrades already in hand, ready to go for it. So we're going to start building this thing out, and I'm excited to share that with you guys. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of the TRX4M? Have you got your hands on one? Was it worth the hype? Definitely want to hear from you. As always, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so, and we'll see you in the next video.